Hello everybody and welcome back to the channel. Today we're taking a look at the KingKong 95 GT. Featuring KingKong 1103 7800 kV motors, a 4-in-1 BL-LES 10 amp ESC, F3 flight controller, 800 TV line camera, a 16-channel 25 milliwatt VTX, 1935 3-blade propellers. I have the FR Sky XM receiver in mine. It uses a JST, a linear antenna. It does appear to be 95 millimeters. Bottom plate is 2 millimeters. It weighs 54.7 grams. It comes with a 350 milliamp 2S battery, prop guards, extra canopy, a USB cable. It does come with 2 sets of props. I broke these 2. 2 extra rubber bands, a prop remover, and a VTX channel map, extra 6mm screws, and a wiring harness. And a pretty nice box. I did most of my flying on 3S batteries. This 3S battery weighs 44.3 grams. This battery weighs 54.1 grams. The stock battery weighs 20.6 grams. I also did some flying with Bonka and Pulse batteries. The 2S Pulse battery weighs 35.7 grams. Ish. The 2S Bonka weighs 32.5 grams.
Seconds.
I had a pretty interesting experience with this little quadcopter. I think it's a nice iteration. This design we've seen several times before. The Atom and all of its iterations kind of have this canopy style, and I think it's a good looking style. I do wish they wouldn't have put that sticker on there. I tried to remove it, but I'm going to have to get some liquid remover out to get that all the way off. So I kind of wish they wouldn't have done that, especially when it comes to looking at the model. You got a nice canopy and you have a white one. Maybe you paint it up or something, but you got to get that thing off. The clear props tend to be more fragile. They tend to snap. a little bit more on the white. You can see in the white one I've got a stress mark right up there. Hopefully I can get that. There's a stress mark right there. They tend to bend and then bend back. So my preference would be that they just include the white props, but you might prefer the clear or the yellow props. This arm formation is nice because it keeps the props out of view, and that may be a big plus for a few of you. Mounting of the receiver I'm not thrilled with, but I understand why they did it, but there is room within the stack. So after you get it bound, I would encourage you to go ahead and put it inside the stack, which when I'm done with this review is probably going to be what I do. I'm going to put it inside the stack. That way it's a little bit more protected. You know, you've got your bind button right here to bind it. If you get one with the XM receiver, you just press this button and you supply power to it, and then you'll get flashing green lights, and then you hit the bind button on your Tyrannus or your receiver, and then it'll go to a solid green light, and that means you're bound. At least that's what I remember. The receiver antenna is really, really long. So you can see I've got it coiled up a little bit. It comes along up in the side. And then I decided I was just going to rubber band it. This is a loom band. You can buy those off of eBay. Get a pack of, I don't know, 1,000. I've been using the same pack for a year. So you can get any sort of rubber band to just secure it down. I think this is a pretty safe spot. You know, the possibility you're going to get it in the prop is there, but it's very unlikely because you'll be forward flying, at least most of the time, so this will be coming back this way. Now if you are a master and you do backwards tricks, that might be a little bit of an issue, so you may want to reconsider where you mount your antenna. The camera angle, if I can show this to you very well, is very minor, but oddly enough, the field of view, if you can get used to it, is so wide that it really doesn't limit you. As you've seen in the flight footage, you can really fly fast forward with this little camera angle. I do think if you want to really hit it hard and get super aggressive, that you'll want to find some other means of getting that camera up. You do have a little bit of slack space in this canopy. You can, of course, then get your wire snips out and snip this away to get some additional camera angle if you would like. I think long term they need to go with an XT30. That seems to be in the short run our way forward. And just like in the last video, I need to show you one little bit about the XT30. For those of you that have been around, you can just jump forward a few minutes. You've seen this before, but if you come here and you just were looking after this vehicle, doing your homework, XT30s, which can carry more amperage, so therefore you can get more amps to your electronic components, and therefore you can run it a little bit harder, a little bit faster. This is an XT30. This is kind of what I prefer at this time. JST had its place in time, especially in the 1S category, but now it's kind of getting to be old because a year ago we didn't have these XT30s, or at least I wasn't aware of them. But this is how it goes together normally. Slides together pretty easily. But if you watch, so I've got the pluses together there. If I rotate this over, it goes together backwards a little bit, and that happens because these connectors are so small that this plastic flexes, and we can get reverse polarity, and then we end up smoking a component. So while XT30s are great, be careful how you plug them in. Line up your battery leads, make sure you got the same color on both sides, slide it together, or you can line up the plus and minus signals to make sure you got it the right way around. Enough of that. As far as flying 2S and 3S, let's go ahead and take a look at the punch outs. 1, 2, 3. 3, 2, 1. 1, 2, 3. 3, 2, 1. So if you're just starting out, 2S might be the way you want to go. Maybe it's an easier path to get started into your FPV flight. 3S, if you've got more experience or you just want to go harder and faster, that's kind of where I'm at. I really liked it on 3S. Oddly enough, the PIDs that I'll put on screen here worked fine for both. I do think it could use a bit more PID tuning for 3S. You get some hard shakes and wobbles when you do hard 180 turns, so I might need a little bit less P and a little bit more D. Outside of really wanting an XT30, and that's only minor, I have lots of good quality batteries that use JSTs. I do think one other thing they could do is put a buzzer on it. There's a little bit of space. We have super small buzzers now. We can get it down inside, but unfortunately, let's take this apart here. I looked around on this board and I really couldn't find anything that was clearly labeled for a buzzer. So if it's got buzzer pads on there, I don't know where they are. It's possible that it's underneath this board, and this board is connected. See if I can show this. I'll get everything out of the way here. See these pins down here? So that this daughter board, or the flight controller, is married down to the ESC board with those pins. You can't see that very well. Get my fingers out of the way. Those pins right there. So you've got 3 pins that connect those 2 boards. That's going to make getting underneath that board a bit of a challenge. It's also going to be making, unless you have enough soldering experience, getting this board apart if this happens to die. But I do think there's room inside here. We could put a buzzer, you know, right in this area or right here along the side. There's room for a buzzer, and any sort of buzzer would help. One of the reasons why I tried 3S without reed tuning is the fact that we don't have USB access. When the canopy's on, we don't have anything to port. We can quickly modify that. We could take our soldering iron and we could just poke it in there and make a little slot, or you can take scissors or an X-Acto knife or any sort of sharp object and just cut yourself a little hole so you can get access to the USB port. That's kind of a downer. We wouldn't necessarily need that if we had an OSD, which is something I like, and I think few of you out there like it too. Nice thing about OSDs, if you don't like it, we can turn off all the features in the OSD. I did have a couple of other interesting experiences. This by default came on 5800 flat, and I didn't think much of it. I just took my goggles and found the channel, and I flew, and I found that I would get substantial blackouts. And that's the first time I've had that. And sometimes that can make you think the VTX is failing. In my particular case, it happened a few times to where it seemed like it lasted an eternity. It was probably only a second or two, but it felt like it was a minute, where you just kind of hold the stick still and hope it comes back. I did have a few crashes that resulted of those blackouts. In my case, it's probably an environmental issue, because once I changed the channel to my normal flying channel, it worked just fine. So if you happen to have blackouts, don't necessarily blame the VTX or anything. Maybe it's an environmental issue and you need to change the channel on it as well. And it's got a nice little button up here, and then it's got that channel map that I showed in the intro, to where you can match up the button lights, and then you know what channel you're on. I did also have an interesting, I guess you would call it kind of a dive. Right here, as we come along to the bush, I hit the throttle real hard, then all of a sudden, it just kind of spins out of control. Well, for the first time, I experienced where a prop just pretty much exploded. When I hit the full throttle, I don't know if it started vibrating or not, but it just, 2 of the plates just came flying off, and that resulted in a crash, which I'm pleased to show you, crashing from, I don't know, 25, 30 feet up in the air onto concrete over at my neighbor's house. The vehicle's fine. It flies well to this day. I didn't even get any camera damage or anything. Overall, I think it's a pretty good vehicle. I think if you're looking at this one, I think you'll be pretty satisfied with it. Are there better on the market? Sure, but they don't look like this. So if this is something that you want, you should get what's going to make you happiest. And this is a solid product. There's no really big faults with it, just minor little things. I do think that they put a nice receiver in here. I can't fault them for that. I do wish it was a battery strap, not a rubber band, because rubber bands do dry out, and eventually you will have to replace this. We get 2 extra in the package, but in order to get it back in there, you're going to have to take the flight controller and the VTX, all the hull stack, those 4 screws completely off, probably take off 2 motors in order to be able to slide the next rubber band on. So that's a bit of a hassle, whereas if it was just a strap, we wouldn't have to do all that work. We should be able to just fish it through there. If you have any comments or questions, please leave those down in the section down below. I appreciate your time, and thanks for watching.